Could mute their mics. We're going to get started. Want to welcome, everyone tonight to Living Trophies. This is our Thursday night gathering, and we are so blessed to have this opportunity tonight to have a gentleman who's a personal friend of mine. I've had the opportunity to work with him indirectly but directly through another gentleman by the name of John Oliver. He introduced me to Chad. I think it was last year, right, Chad? Yeah, I think it was last year. I went to the NCAA leadership conference out there, and then John Oliver was a speaker, and we'll have John on later on. And so he introduced me to Chad, and I took Chad's personality assessment, and I have to tell you, it blew me away. It blew me away with understanding myself and then having it written right in words who I was, and I was really it was really helpful for him to then get on the phone with me and explain how he did the assessment and how it can help me. And a year later, I can honestly tell you that all of you here, because you're personal friends of mine, that I'm a better person and a better coach because I understand and I'm more self-aware. And it started with taking that personality inventory, an assessment, excuse me. And that's a deep dive where you got to turn your face around and really be honest with yourself, right, Chad?
Yeah.
You really got to be honest with yourself and what you like and what you don't like, and then come away and having spoken with Chad to explain it to you, you'll have a better understanding of yourself. So without further ado, I just want to introduce Chad. Chad Q. Brown. He is a CEO of Profile. He is a behavior strategist and organizational leader specialist, and he is a person who works with a lot of different corporations, and he's also worked with a lot of different teams, both on a collegiate level and a professional level. And we are, as Living Trophies, our mission is to always try to impact as many lives we possibly can, through this game of basketball and this platform that we have, so we can create living trophies. So without further ado, if everybody could mute their mics, and I'm going to turn it over to Chad Q. Brown. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you guys having me, and I need to have you introduce me more. So thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, everyone. Tonight is, it's an honor to be here. Talk to a lot of coaches, and as Kevin mentioned, not only do I work with a lot of organizations, a lot of professional and college sports teams, a lot of corporate organizations, but I'm a coach. That's who I am. And for 10 years, I coached college football. And it's interesting that once I went the entrepreneurial road after 10 years of being at all different levels, I was at Division III, I was in the Ivy League, I was in the Big Ten, I was in the WAC, the Big Sky, kind of moved every 2 years. Basically, after doing that and going the entrepreneurial route, it's fun because I just being a part of so many other organizations. It's great to be able to not only coach, a team, but I get to work and kind of be an extension of a lot of teams as an extension of their staff. And I can explain more of that later. We'll dive into my, clients and background. But at the end of the day, I thought there was, when I got done coaching, I went to work for an editing company that wanted to compete with the world's, if you guys have heard of Huddle, Exos, DV Sports, Synergy. I was in that world for about 6 years before we created Profile. And one of the company was called LRS. It was out of Illinois. It's about a $300 million company, gross revenue. And they gave assessments when they in the interview and hiring process, which a lot of you guys may or may not have taken. There's a lot of good ones out there. But 6 of my 10 years as a coach, I was the recruiting coordinator. So I was always the receivers, quarterbacks. I was an offensive guy, and then I was the recruiting director. So I oversaw the country where we sent coaches. Football's 105 guys. So I love the puzzle of people. But when I took these assessments back in 2007, you answer questions, you get a report back on yourself like Kevin is explaining. And back then it was on paper, but I'd never seen anything help me understand me than when I saw that report. It helped me understand how I behaved. Was I more of a type A personality, an extrovert, an introvert, an analytical mind? what I cared about. Did I value competitiveness? Was it family? Was it learning? Was it working with others? Was I motivated to follow rules, lead others or not lead others? I give you those examples to say that's where we're going to go tonight. I know none of you have taken the assessment. So you're probably like, well, how am I going to feel this if I haven't taken it? Well, I'm going to work on that. We're going to do some exercises as we get into it. But at the end of the day, I felt there was a void when I saw these assessments in college sports. I went on to learn that I was so intrigued with assessments and behavioral assessments and leadership assessments. I started to look at who used them. And 70% of Fortune 500 companies utilize personality assessments in some way, shape, or form. That's Google, Disney, IBM, Coca-Cola. Then I learned that 100% of U.S. military groups use behavioral assessments. The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the Navy SEALs. Then I learned churches use them. I learned that prisons use them, government agencies. But in 2007, I went, where is this in college sports? You know, we all sit back and you read all the time, whether I go to a Final Four and I listen to speakers in the Final Four or go to a clinic. Everybody wants better character. Everybody wants the right fit for their team. What's that mean? The word fit and self-awareness to me is used very loosely today, because if I were to say, I was talking to an ACC school the other day, an ACC football program, and they're in a city, and I said, what's a good fit for your school? And the coach said, well, they've got to like the city and they've got to be driven and competitive. And I said, I'm not trying to pick on you, but isn't that what everybody says other than the city part? Like, drilling into what a good fit is for you is really a fun conversation if you have the tools to compartmentalize these categories that I mentioned earlier. So that's where we're going to go today. But at the end of the day, our goal, our mission, and our company at Profile is to humanize sports. You know, Google years ago had, you know, Google's a $168 billion company. And when they started it in 1988, their mission was to organize the world's information. They've done a pretty good job. We're not quite there on gross revenue, but but the humanized sports is something I think is missing, and it's getting better. But there's a lot of things in society today that people are, you know, bringing to the forefront that we're talking about. But I believe coaches still have to get better. You all, especially, no matter what sports you're in, if you're a coach of a sports team, football, basketball, baseball, whatever you coach, in January, the transfer rule changes. And what I believe is the Wild West of college basketball and college football is coming, because there's 800 transfers in basketball every year over the past 6 or 7 years. If there's that many now and everybody has a one-time transfer, that's going to get even worse. It might double and triple, people project. It's time to me that coaches and athletic departments find a way to get better at people. And so hopefully we can help our clients get there. Kevin, can you help me share my screen? Can you make me the host?
I can.
That'd be great. I'm going to open up. Everybody, I don't know if some of you may or may not have gotten an exercise, but you may have I see it, Kevin, you did it perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start off with an exercise, guys, and it's called the cards exercise. And the reason we're going to start off with a cards exercise is I want to eliminate bias in a conversation we're going to have later on. So what I want everybody to do is, have you guys, does everybody have the exercise? Anybody not get it earlier? Anybody not have that? If you don't, basically, you should have gotten an email that has this sheet, okay? And everybody grab a pen. And if you couldn't print this, just grab a piece of paper and make your paper look like this. And don't worry about these bottom. I just want everybody to have 3 lines. Live right here. oops. Just live on these top 3 lines. So you're going to put spade, club, heart, diamond. Okay? And no, we're not playing spades. I know one of you guys was about to. We're going to play our own card game tonight.
That'd be Tyson Wheeler.
Tyson, come on, man. I got you. We're going to do something else, though. It's more fun. More fun.
Thank God.
Maybe.
I don't know how to play spades.
It's all right. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to write the spade, club, heart, diamond. The profession is over this. You're going to have an equal sign here, okay? And that's what you're going to write on for this exercise, okay? Now, let's go back to the cards. So this is the formal sheet, and we're going to live right here, okay? We're going to live right in this area. These right here, don't worry about the bottom. We're not going to do 6. We're going to do 3. Now, everybody take your eyes to this sheet right here, okay? Tonight, you are all the hiring manager of your organization. Name it whatever you want. But you're going to hire 3 professions, and you have to be right for your organization to be successful, okay? What you're looking at is 28 cards that have words in a box. But every box or every card, you could say, okay, has 2 sets of words, okay? So if you choose this card here, you're choosing both sets of words. I'm going to give you a profession. And just to start everything off here, the first profession, everybody write in that top box, you're going to write scientist. Okay? You're all hiring for a scientist tonight. And now you're going to go back to this set of 28 cards, and you get to pick 8 cards that you think are the ideal set of characteristics for a scientist. Now, some of you, you're all muted, but some of you, your head is exploding right now because I won't tell you anything more than scientist. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the exercise, okay? That's all you get. But, we're going to do 3 of these. You will get to reset the deck every time we do a profession, okay? Does that make sense? So you kind of come up with your own system to where if you use this card for scientists, maybe you write the letter S out here. And then the next time when you do the next profession, you write a different letter so you can have all 28 and you don't get confused with what you chose. I don't know who could print it and who didn't. Does that make sense? So just do your best, make it your own system. For the first one, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. That's my timer. For the second, for the second and third, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. But you've got to pick the 8 cards. When you do that, again, you're picking both words when you choose a card. And when you're done, you're going to add up how many. Let's say you have 3 spades. Let's say you had 2 clubs, 1 heart, and 2 diamonds. That's how your sheet is going to look. One thing, last set of directions. Do not write anything in here until we score it, and that's for later in the program. Does everybody understand? Don't write anything in the equals, okay? So that's just hypothetical what I did. Ladies and gentlemen, please unmute your mic. If you have a question, it's okay, but I'm not telling you anything more about the scientists, by the way. Anybody have any questions? All right, guys, you get 3 minutes. Choose 8 cards for the ideal set of characteristics for a scientist. Ready, begin. We had a couple people join late. We just started an exercise for those that just joined, so hang tight, and we'll get through it a little later. Maybe a little late to explain that again. if you get done, just something you can do when you get done is kind of explore that panel that shows you video, microphone. There should be a way to raise your hand later on in this program. Kind of trying to identify that because we're going to have you guys raise your hand a little later in the program. If you're done. You guys are you've got about 1:30 left. Kind of just give me the wave. I can't see everybody, but give me the wave when you're done. Now I can kind of see everybody. It's kind of cool. About 40 seconds. For those of you that want to move on and kind of prepare, the next profession is going to be comedian. So you can kind of start thinking ahead.
Hey, Chad, I think a couple people are trying to get in.
You got it. I just let a couple in.
Thank you.
You got it. Let's see here. I think I'll let them in. I think everybody. Let me know, Kevin, if you get any messages here in the next 30 seconds or so.
I sure will. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hit the pause button on scientist. You're now going to move on to comedian. So now reset your deck. You get all 28 cards, but you're now going to do the same thing. Is you're going to choose the 8 cards that, in your subjective opinion, are the ideal set of characteristics for a comedian. Remember, some of you are going to lean on that top word. When you choose that top word, you're choosing the word below it too. Don't forget that. Ready, begin.
Would you mind scrolling down?
Hey, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, would you mind scrolling down so we can see the deck again?
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Appreciate you.
Got it. Yep, you got it. We got that timer going. About a minute. I'm going to have one to go on mute. All right, about 15 seconds. Then we'll be on the last profession. All right, is everybody good? Some people get mad at me when I start going too fast. You guys all good? All right, the last profession is, I'll go back over here. Quarterback. Quarterback of American football. I'm not telling you teams. I'm not telling you level. I'm telling you quarterback. 2 minutes. The 8 cards that are the ideal set of characteristics for a quarterback. Scientist, comedian, quarterback. You're all hiring. If you're wrong, we're in trouble. About a minute. Usually I don't put this much pressure on you when you've got to hire somebody, but just tonight there is. $25 seconds. Jason, done. Nice work. Megan, done. Nice work. All right, guys. We're going to wind that down. What I want you to do now, as I turn that off, is everyone, if you would, remember, do not put anything in that box, please, because we're going to score it differently than you think. Because we're not all sitting together, take that and put it to the side, if you would. We're going to come back to that in a little while and have some fun with it, okay? But we'd like to start everything off. So if everybody, you may need to unmute your mic on this. I'm going to play you guys a video. And I'm not sure if it comes through your speaker or mine, but I've done this enough to know that you can hear it. So everybody unmute their mic for a second. And if it's a lot of feedback, go mute. You should be able to hear it. There's a 2-minute video to kind of get us started. Everybody hear it okay? Give me an okay.
Just a little higher, a little more volume.
Years ago, when he was still in college, I was very outspoken about what kind of character I thought Jameis Winston was and is. And I was killed by a lovely group of humans that identify themselves as hashtag FSU Twitter. We all receive all kinds of good things. This was a specific group of people that wanted to die on the hill. This particular gentleman is a good character and fit to lead a team and fit to be the face of a franchise. And I was wrong, and I'm this and this and this. And now here we are. I don't have much to say other than I am 0% shocked. I'm 0% shocked we're back in this situation. I'm 0% shocked that Jameis Winston and the words basically sexual assault again are going together. This is a bed that the Buccaneers made, and now they get to sleep in it.
These are multiple situations that are surrounding this individual. Because he's terrific at football, he's going to take a suspension. He's going to be right back out on the field. And unfortunately, there are going to be so many people that actually forget that this even took place based on how well he performs.
But so what is, I hear what you're saying, but so what is, are you suggesting you think this is not an appropriate response? Do you think 3 games is not enough? Do you think, what should happen here?
Well,
if this isn't the right thing?
This is a society thing. And so, like, what is the proper suspension for somebody that commits domestic violence, commits sexual assault? That line is still blurred because the law enforcement beyond football doesn't take a stronger stand. So we can't expect the NFL to take a stronger stand than law officials. But however, Jameis Winston, who found himself in this situation, if you're the NFL and you want to take a stronger stand, we'll see how they use this as a perfect example of somebody that's still in their prime football-wise, as opposed to being at the end of a roster. Because we know what would happen if he was the 50-footer player.
Correct.
He would be released.
Yes, and if he was close to the end of his career like Ray Rice, he would probably never play again. Under these circumstances,
You guys all follow football enough to know who Jameis Winston is. Anybody not know who he is? No big deal if you don't. Reminding everybody, he was the number 1 pick in the 2015 NFL draft. And Jameis, at this time of that video, had been accused of groping an Uber driver one night driving home from the bars, made national news. The driver pressed charges. And so that was before last season. Last season, he threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, which is unprecedented. He ultimately was then traded to the New Orleans Saints on a 1-year contract that he came out recently, and he took the deal, but he's been complaining about the money he has. Let's go. We're going to dive into Jameis Winston here to take us down the avenue and conversation of behavior. In 2012, Jameis Winston's from Alabama. He played at Florida State University, won a national title at Florida State as an underclassman. In 2012, he was convicted, of a BB gun war and an apartment complex vandalism that was about $8,000 in damage for shooting BB guns, breaking windows. 2012, he was accused of rape. 2013, he was charged with petty theft at a Burger King. 2014, he was, if you guys remember the ticker at the bottom of ESPN about Jameis Winston was seen taking crab legs from a grocery store, Publix grocery store, that he said were given to him for free. In 2015, of his final season, the year they won a national title, he was suspended for 1 game for jumping up on a table and yelling profanities at a woman, and he was suspended for the Clemson game, which is kind of a big deal. They lost, but they still won a national title. 2015, he now declares for the NFL draft, and he's coming out. But the accuser of the 2012 rape charge files suit against him. What nobody talks about is he eventually he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, 1 or 2, and they settle for $950,000. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers take him. He goes on to speak to an elementary school group his rookie year, and he tells the little girls to sit down and tells the boys to stand up. It's one of those little bit of a controversy. Are they just picking on Jameis? But he'd had a lot of things go on to where he probably deserved it a little bit. And then in 2017, the video I just showed you, sexual harassment of an Uber driver, which got a 3-game suspension, and I've told you the rest. In 2015, these are the picks in the NFL draft. Jameis, I'm not going to go through them all. I'm going to go through the first 12 or 13. Jameis Winston was the number 1 overall pick, started every game, finally was traded, never went to a playoff game. Had some pretty cool big-time numbers, but a lot of interceptions, no playoff wins. Marcus Mariota was the Heisman Trophy winner from Oregon. He went number 2 to the Titans. Started really for 3 or 4 years, got hurt a little bit. Dante Fowler went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, outside linebacker, Florida, started his entire career, was just traded, I think, to L.A. last year. Amari Cooper was really good started all of his career with the Raiders, got traded to the Cowboys, signed the 2nd biggest deal in wide receiver history last year as a wide receiver in the history of the NFL. Brandon Sheriff's an O-lineman from Iowa, starts every game and has for his entire career. Just a big, tough kid. Leonard Williams has started every game for the New York Jets. Kevin White is the one bust of this first round. Went to the Bears, never really made it, was a receiver from West Virginia. Vic Beasley went to the Falcons, started all of his rookie year, and then some, was traded last year, but had a really good 4-5 season with the Falcons. Eric Flowers, had a kind of an up and down career, but started a lot for the Giants, an offensive lineman out of Miami. Todd Gurley, one of the best running backs in the NFL out of Georgia, came in with a blown knee, was the number 10 pick, but has been an all-pro guy, went to a Super Bowl. Trey Waynes is a corner for Michigan State, still starts every game for the the Minnesota Vikings. Danny Shelton started every game as a defensive lineman from Washington State for the Cleveland Browns, was traded to the New England Patriots, and starts for them today. I'll stop there. What's the common theme with everything I just said? Anybody want to chime in? It's okay to come off mute. Give me a little feedback.
A lot of them aren't with their original team.
Yeah, handful of them. What else? What else is a common theme? There's a word I used a lot.
Started most of their games.
Who said that?
Justin Cardozo.
Justin, nice job. Most of them started a lot. 3, 4, 5 years. We'll see this guy down here. This guy with the big giant mug. Okay, number 32. Let's talk about him. 32nd pick in the draft. His name is Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown was a defensive tackle out of Texas. Big, strong. Played for the Patriots, and they get the last pick because why? They won a Super Bowl the year before. This is Malcolm Brown's career, the 32nd pick. 2015 started 12 of 16 games. 2016 started 13 of 16 games. 2017 started 12 of 13 games. He's injured a little bit, and then he won a Super Bowl. Okay? That's a pretty good career for this 32nd pick. You guys as coaches, and I know we don't have all sports coaches, but you sit around your version of the war room and you look at someone's resume, and we call it production here at Profile. Production is a word that's the umbrella of someone's resume. It's their height, weight, speed, ability, basketball coaches, assistant turnover ratio, 3-point percentage. You know the hard skills of these athletes. But we don't always know what we call soft skills. Leadership. How do they want to lead? Do they follow rules? Do they love basketball? Do they love football? What type of behavior are they? What motivates them? Is it learning? Is it competitiveness? Is it family? Is it security? These are all the things we sit around and we talk about. Well, does he love basketball? Most coaches say, yeah, because they're sometimes pushing their own guy. And we all think they love basketball because they've been playing their whole life. But do we really know it? But at the end of the day, with everything I just told you, and I'd like you to come off mute, and I know we may have a lot of people chime in, so just kind of be respectful of each other if you would. But if all those people started, and Malcolm Brown, the 32nd pick has a career like that, why do you take Jameis Winston number 1 with all that bad external?
Potential.
Mike, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Say that again.
Potential.
All right. I'm going to healthy conversation here, healthy debate. You're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're the National Football League, and you're going to pay somebody $35 million. Marcus Mariota did not have that. He did not have that rap sheet. He won a Heisman.
Yeah.
So potential, I hear you, but if I'm the owner, if I'm a billionaire owner and you said potential to me, I might go, is that good enough? But it's still a good conversation. This is where we get into these good debates on coaching staffs. Somebody else give me a different answer. I love you that said that, Mike, because it's a good one and it becomes a really good conversation. But what else?
I was going to say risk reward, but there's also a reason why some teams continue to win and some teams don't.
Well said.
So, but I, in that situation, I would think high risk, high reward type of situation.
Yeah, like if we can figure him out, boom, his ability's awesome. Sharif, I hear you. That's good. Give me one more.
I would say that some of it is pressure from your fan base. For example, some of the European clubs in soccer signed big player names as opposed to giving their academy players chances because that's what the fans want, or they want the coach or the GM fired if it's not happening.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. There is a little bit of not little. There's a lot of pressure to make sure you sign the big name. And you guys face that in college too, you college coaches. Who said that? I couldn't see you on my grid. Who's that?
Justin Brandt.
Justin, that's really good. I haven't heard that one before, and it's real. That's so true. As we kind of keep going, I want all of your wheels to turn with that, why do you take them even after all the things you saw? But do you ever, as coaches, say, kind of on the risk reward thing, we'll change them? Or maybe some other coaching staff says, well, you know what? We'll just manage him.
But Chad, I think that is the case with teams like the New England Patriots, because their culture and their organization is so strong. They're so willing to take a chance on very, very talented players with checkered past because they know that they have things in place and they're so secure from the top all the way down that they're more likely to take a chance on a player with a checkered past.
Yeah.
A prime example is like a Randy Moss, and they can get him to conform by simply saying, look, this is how we do things. This is why we win championships. And it also what factors in is where that athlete is in his career, and does winning become more important. And I think that's what we all saw with Randy Moss. He's like, he wanted to win a championship. He wanted to go out a winner, so he was willing to sacrifice all the other external things, if you will,
absolutely,
to put the winning before everything else. So oftentimes I think organizations will say, you know what, do we have the things in place to keep this athlete, and for us, student athlete, in line? Is he better than his problems as a player? And do we have the things in place in our community and at our universities and at our high schools where we can control, if you will, and keep that person, in line?
Absolutely. It's like you can take one. We'll take Randy Moss. You know what? And it worked out, right? They took a guy that our culture, we're going to surround that person with the good people, and we'll take one or two and not take many. But
Aaron Hernandez.
And what we're saying here, we will change and we'll manage him. Like, Kevin, I hear you loud and clear. But there's this thing in coaching sometimes, that we know the Patriots have won a lot of Super Bowls, but the definition of ego is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. It's sometimes that thing that says, I can change him, we will manage him. So as much as you can say Randy Moss, and hopefully you're all thinking about your favorite team, or maybe even something you dealt with where we took a risk on a guy that either worked out or didn't, but we could easily go into the Patriots' ego and say, how did Antonio Brown work out last year? You see what I'm saying? So
Aaron Hernandez, the
great documentary on somebody that's really troubled past and a lot of crazy things under the hood, but that's a great one. And I'm not here to pick on anybody, but I want to make you guys feel something I think every coach feels. I've sat in a room with the entire Dallas Cowboys scouting staff and coaching staff and listen to them talk about guys they're thinking about taking, and that risk factor always comes up. And if a coach really wants them, some coaches like that, and they're like, I can manage it. And that's fine, but it's just something you got to think about. In your world today, the margin of error is so much smaller, in my opinion, than it used to be, because for a lot of reasons, which I'm going to show you, but one of which is these things right here. Is you got these things on your people, your team, yourselves all the time.
Chad, one of the things also, Chad, sometimes people just want to win the press conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
As coaches, when we see a hire, been in this game long enough, you know who's really good and who's not.
Right.
And it's all subjective, obviously, but a lot of times you do all your homework, you do all of this stuff, and you know all those things that are there, but some people just want to win the press conference.
No, absolutely. I think athletic directors, I don't want to pick on any of you that are here, but sometimes they kind of have to win the press conference. That's their job. Doesn't mean it's the right decision always. But
and that's what happens. Sometimes it catches up with you in the end.
Well, exactly. And we can go to Jameis Winston on that. Guys, Jameis Winston had banners of him on the side of the stadium. That year that the Uber driver incident happened, they pulled him off the stadium that year before he started. They hired a new coach. There are 2 different coaches to take care of him. To your point about that things catching up to him. So, there's all these, the he said, she said things that are out there that make it more hard today. There are, obviously in the world of basketball, there's been a lot more eyes on the world of basketball. Your margin of error is just smaller than it used to be. A quick story. I was on a staff from one coaching season. We were out in Idaho. We had a coach actually pull a gun on students. Never made the newspaper. Went to a club one night, said he was threatened, pulled it out. It never hit mainstream media. It was right before we had cell phones, but it wasn't, we were still in Idaho. But my point is, like, what happens today when that happens? Okay, we all know it's national news. There's a culture shift going on in your world with transfers, with the all eyes on the program. I heard Pat Fitzgerald, the head football coach at Northwestern, say we're being watched 24/7. And it's hard.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to bring up one other example, just from the positive standpoint that I think helps a lot too, talking about culture.
Making sure.
Say that again?
I thought you were a Patriots fan. I was making sure that's not where you're going. Okay, good.
Absolutely not. I'm from Philadelphia.
That's good.
So yeah, like thinking about on a positive perspective, and talking about culture, if you have, multiple leaders within your organization, you look back when the Eagles took Mike Vick, Andy Reid wanted to take that risk, but they also had history there because Donovan McNabb actually recruited Michael Vick to come to Syracuse.
Yeah,
so,
it's good one. Good memory.
Being able to take, people in your organization and put them into leadership roles can help you take on that risk as well, having multiple leaders in the group, as opposed to just one person that's saying, I'm taking this individual, everybody else get on board.
I love that, because one of the things I'm doing with the Jameis example is, am I being extreme? Absolutely. I'm trying to take you guys down a road of just teaching here, but that example is awesome because it's so true with when we go into leadership. Sometimes we can have these people. Can people change? Sure, they can.
See what it looks like.
But it's so tough at times when you take people with extreme situations. That takes me, just kind of using the McNabb and Vic example, like change is happening when you do those kind of things. In the corporate world, there's a term called change management. Something coaches don't use much, but in the corporate world, they do. It's really improving an organization by altering how work is done. So every year, I think the world of sports epitomizes this, because you have freshmen coming in, you have seniors going out, and then now we have the 5th-year transfer. You always have turnover. So, and then we change our coaching staff sometimes, but we always have things that are changing how we do that. When you introduce change to an organization, you're ultimately going to impact one or more of the following: processes, systems, organizational structure, coaches, people, roles. Every year that goes on in your world, and that's a thing that like big companies focus on. But I don't know if coaches in the world of sports maybe compartmentalize it like I'm showing you here, like the businesses do. If you guys, I'm not sure, you don't have to answer this, but if you've ever heard of the Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, McKinsey and Company, these are the biggest management consulting companies on the planet. If you don't know who they are, they're basically these giant firms that get brought into an IBM or Coca-Cola or Google to come fix problems or study the business, improve taxes, improve revenue, save money, improve people, improve hiring. And they're not walking in your door unless you're paying them $1 million. I know guys that work at Deloitte, like it's real, and they're huge companies. They believe their case studies say 54% to 70% of change initiatives in their world fail, don't work. Changing our salespeople, changing our sales practices, management, IT, marketing. Why do so many, one over every 2 Why do they fail? These are the reasons. There's an awesome case study up from McKinsey & Company on YouTube. Google change management, McKinsey & Company, and it's a young lady that goes through about 5 minutes and she explains it awesome. But these are the issues: organization issues, culture issues, per what Kevin was just talking about. Employees don't understand. Employees are not motivated. Think your players. Administration's not on board. Think your athletic director. CEO's not on board. Think the head coach. If the head coach isn't on board our ideas. Employees not engaged. Think transfers. That's what the biggest companies on the planet say. So what do they all have in common, ladies and gentlemen? People. People. So that term, getting better at people, is a big, big deal. That's coming from the biggest companies on the planet. I ask the question, why don't we focus more on people?
Chad, this reminds me of that saying, that cliche that, I'll use basketball as a reference. I'm going to beat you with my team, but I'm going to take your team and beat you, or beat my team with your team. It's not who the players are, it's who the coaches are, it's who the leaders are.
Ego. We all have one.
I'm gonna go a step further, Chad, because you hit on the number one thing. And somebody a long time ago told me knowledgeable people know facts. Successful and prosperous people know people. Never forgot that.
I cannot forget that. That's really good. And it's true. It's really true. And probably the really successful people, it lies somewhere in between. But it's like, I speak at the NFL and Coaches Academy, NFL and NCAA Coaches Academy every year, and I do a program on processes versus people, similar to this. But like the football coaches, they get up at 6 and they work till 2 in the morning during the season. It's real. I've been there, done that. But it's so much scheme and recruiting and meetings and more meetings. And I'm like, what's the number one value of our quarterback? What's he really care about? We don't know. So we get engulfed in processes so many times, like you just said, data, which is perfect, and we get away from the people side. And so, it's just something, when I took those assessments a long time ago, I'm like, we can be better there. And I don't think, though, we get better until we become obsessed and aware of that change. So what we do at Profile is we're going to focus with our assessments and our programming on behavior, on communication methods, on how people are motivated, on what people value. And external backgrounds are these things that can, it's external is defined by mentors, parents, guardians, coaches, teachers, environment, things that can impact us and affect our behavior every day. It doesn't mean somebody got divorced or my parents were divorced or I grew up in a bad area. That's not bad external. But when you've got crazy people in your head telling you the wrong things, we all know who some of those people are. That's external backgrounds. And then there's really good external backgrounds with just good, solid people that care, that are objective and tell you the right things. So at Profile, ladies and gentlemen, our mind is a scientific approach to winning teams, like talent selection, strategies, team building architecture, assessment technology is the biggest thing we provide, because our goal is to teach our clients just how to deliver these assessments, teach them the system and let them run with it. And then leadership development is another term used really loosely. The University of California, Berkeley has a guy that donated $15 million to something called the Cameron Institute. The Cameron Institute is a leadership development institute. They hired someone to run this thing to help develop leaders. It has to do with career development, but they utilize assessments to help people understand themselves and really get into, well, I'm wired this way. I would probably lean to leading this way, but what about the things that aren't natural to me? What if I can't lead a certain way? And it starts to get into definitions of how people can lead better. And how many of you know the DISC assessment? Everybody, if you maybe raise your hand. If you have or have not heard of it, there's a lot of assessments in the world, okay? DISC is our core assessment, but we think DISC has some holes in it. So we give 2 more assessments in what's called a battery of 3. So a long time ago, I believe that I think I told you guys earlier, if a system could be given on a phone, meaning assessments, under 20 minutes, give coaches quick information, and just for a visual, our software kind of looks like this. There's Kevin Sutton. There's Purdue's portal. There's Stanford's portal. These are the people in Stanford's portal. So I'm going to go back to the Prezi in a minute. But if it gave you quick information like that and reporting, but it was easy for coaches, I thought you had a model to help organizations get better at people. And so that's the system we've developed here at Profile. And it's not for everybody, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we've been able to grow over about 9 years to work with the NFL Combine. I'm a special advisor to the Dallas Cowboys directly, and it's a long story. We used to work with all the teams, but then a team had to tag you as rules of the league. And so the Cowboys became the people that wanted our system a little more than the others. So we work with them. And we have 4,000 of the elite college football players in America. And that may not, some of you guys that are basketball folks and other sports, you may think, well, it may not matter to me. But when you think about people, the demographic of 18 to 22-year-old collegiate student athlete, usually extremely talented at their trade, and very much a part of a team, that data is really awesome. And then we have, for us at least, and we use that with all of our clients, we also have the 74 elite quarterbacks. And you may not care about quarterbacks, but to us, it's a great leadership study because these are the best leaders, the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jacksons of the world. They've led for a long time, and we've got that data in our system. But we do programming for the U.S. Army. We work with Nike. We just started working with the EYBL and the Nike group, like a global marketing. And so we've learned a lot being a football guy going into the basketball world. So I've already told you these things here. So I'm going to skip through it. We're going to go to another exercise. We're going to talk about self-awareness for you guys. So that's kind of the big picture, 40,000 foot view of what we do. Our mission at Profile at the end of the day is to humanize sports. Google's mission years ago in 1998 was to, like I told you, was to organize the world's information, which they've done a pretty good job. Ours is to humanize sports, but you have to start by helping people understand themselves first. And that starts with coaches. So let's do a little exercise. I mentioned you didn't take the assessment, but we can do a virtual example here in a minute. I'm going to show you a video. Kevin, are you okay with this video having a little language to it?
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, this is an R-rated. It's a 2-minute video. Turn your volumes up a little bit or unmute your mic, and this will get us started on the self-awareness conversation. We're going to talk about you guys here in a minute. Here we go.
The underlying current, when people write about you, who the f is this guy? Yeah, I mean, you get that, right? Of course. This is a word that is rarely talked about in our space that I want to start building more attention for. Self-awareness. I want to deliver on this message so much. I would create a test or a drug that allowed people to become self-aware. One potion inject, not hustle, not smart, self-awareness. I don't fear being self-aware. I know I suck at a lot of stuff. I think everybody lies to themselves. Some people are meant to be at C players, and I'm pissed that the narrative now is that you need to be a number one and have your company, because a lot of people are going to lose or leave money on the table because that's just the narrative. So I'm such a positive guy. I struggle to think about the things I'm bad at, but self-awareness requires understanding both and then choosing which path you want to go through. I'm a big fan of going all in on your strengths and don't give a fuck about what you suck at. Self-awareness isn't only just betting on your strengths, it's accepting all your shortcomings. Let me tell you one thing. What works for me does not necessarily work for you. I think being at peace with yourself and your skill set is such an important part of this. Too many people try to be like me because it's sizzly and it's sexy and people want to be charismatic and on stage. So many of you do so many things better than I do. You can look at like how people roll, and like it's great to admire and things of that nature, but it's so damn important to stick to like your DNA. Try to get to a place where you understand yourself and understand what your strengths are. You've got to find your self-awareness. All your shortcomings are there for a reason. They're there to also allow you to be great. Deep in your brain, deep in your heart, you actually accept all those shortcomings is the second your life goes on the offense. I worry that people don't tap into their strengths. You have to audit who you actually are, because then you're not going to bullshit yourself. You're going to storytell yourself, you're going to motivate yourself, and you're not going to bullshit yourself. And once you believe that, either for yourself or someone else told you, go directly, all chips, all into that. But we've all got something. And you just need to accept what's yours and go in on that. Then you've got a starting point to success. And
so if you don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, he started a wine company, online wine company, became a millionaire through a lot of hard work. He's on YouTube all over the place. He's very direct, as you can see. Maybe some of you guys do know him, but he's got a lot of good stuff, but he really dominates social media. Some people hate him, some people love him, but he does a ton of stuff on self-awareness. I mentioned that word is used loosely. And I think in that video, I could pick on Gary Vee because I think a lot of what he said is more of a motivational point because we all as coaches, that kid doesn't know who he is or she doesn't know who she is. They don't have any self-awareness. But the one thing I do love that he said was he talked about auditing yourself. You do have to audit yourself in order to become self-aware and understand who you are. But how do you audit yourself if you don't have some sort of tool to look into the things like I've mentioned tonight about, the behavioral styles and the extroversion and the introversion, or what motivates me, what do I value? So that's why I think assessments are so important. And because it's a way for us to audit ourselves, and it's a way for student athletes to audit themselves. When I was 18 to 22 or younger, I had no clue who I was. I just knew I did a lot of stupid things, but I didn't know why I did things. And I think you guys could probably relate to that. So let's start to audit ourselves tonight. Simple. Let's do an exercise. I'm going to ask you if you're an indirect or direct personality, and I'm going to give it some definition. And I want you to get your pencil, your pen, and write a little note down, okay? I'm going to have you guys raise your hand really high because in a minute, so I can kind of scan through, turn on your video. But are you indirect or is your personality direct? Let's give it some context. We're going to start exploring ourselves here. An indirect person is very patient. They ask questions versus telling. They're a little slower in pace. They like being correct. They're driven by being correct. And they follow rules many times by the letter of the law. That's an indirect personality. So are you that? Hold the phone. Don't answer just yet. You could be direct. Direct people are very fast-paced. They tell instead of ask. They're very assertive at times. They're impatient. You can see that knee tap, or I got to move. I got to do a lot of things. And they follow rules, but they follow them to the spirit of the law. What I want you to do, guys, on your piece of paper for you, write down one word. Are you indirect or are you direct? We're going somewhere with this. So just have that written down. Everybody good? All right. Now, are you guarded or are you open? This exercise is over. You're going to have 2 words on your paper, and we're going to score it using some numbers. But you're going to be indirect or direct, one of them. You're going to be guarded or open, one of them. You have 2 words. Guarded people, they're close to the vest. They keep things inside. They're somewhat stoic. They're hard to read, poker-faced when they're guarded. They keep things inside. I mentioned a little redundant here, hard to read. They don't show emotion. And they like when people actually put things in writing because sometimes they're worried about being taken advantage of. So it's like put it in writing instead of us just talking about it. That's a guarded individual. Let's go to open. How many of you are open? I'm going to share my feelings today when we talk. I want to get it out. TMI is my personality. Sometimes too much information. Be honest with yourself. You may not like some of these, but be honest. Do you speak before you think? Do you make emotional decisions based on feel versus fact? I think somebody brought that up earlier. And where do you wear your feelings on your sleeve? Are you open or are you guarded? You should have 2 words. Now let's score this thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some numbers up here, and to end this and figure out what type of personality you are from afar and without taking our assessment, okay, I'm going to put up some letters. And let's talk about your indirect or direct. Now we're going to get rid of the words, and you're going to write down a letter, and you're going to end this with a letter and a number, and I'm going to tell you what it means, okay? Each of you will have 1 letter, 1 number, okay? Let's start with the letters. For those of you that chose indirect, okay, if you're extremely indirect, like not even close, you write down the letter A. But if you weren't sure, you're kind of on the bubble, but you lean indirect, I want you to write down the letter B. And it's the same way with direct. If you're extremely assertive and direct versus all those things we talked about, you write down that letter D. But if you're on the fence again, you're not sure, but you still lean to be a little more assertive personality, write down C. Those are your letters. Let's go to guarded and open. Now you got to choose a number. So if you had guarded down, are you extremely guarded? Do you keep things inside? Are you hard to read? Are you stoic? If it's not even a question, you're a 1. Okay? If you're on the fence and not sure, you're a 2, but you lean to guarded. And if you're extremely open and you love to share your feelings, TMI, emotional decisions, you're a 4 on the open category if you chose open. And if you're on the fence, if you lean open, you choose 3. Does everybody have a number and a letter? You're all good? Give me the nod. Perfect. Some of you mentioned the assessment called DISC, okay? DISC is D-I-S-C, okay? What's cool about DISC is there's actually a few of these in the world. They're called 4-quadrant behavioral assessments. It means let's take 8 billion people in the world and make it real simple. And we'll put everybody in one of the 4 categories. This assessment I love. The NCAA gives it, guys. They've given it for years. We're actually their provider of this assessment. And I'll tell you why later. But it's a tool to simplify understanding yourself and understanding people. So DISC is you are a D letter, or maybe Justin's an I, or maybe Jason's an S, or maybe Martin's a C. You fall into one of these categories. So if you chose 1, 2, C, and D, so any combination of these 4 letters, let's say you were a 2 and a C, or a D and a 2, or a 1 and a C, any combination of these letters, everybody turn on your video, you would be a D personality. I'm going to explain what it means, but I want you to remember your letter. Write it down. This is the scoring. Raise your hand if you had this combination. Raise it high. There's 1. Anybody else? 2, 3. Few people can't see 4. All right, so here's the thing. This is usually the smaller percentage of people anyway. Well, I'll explain what that means. Thank you. Let's go to the next set of letters. If you had a combination, hang on a second. Oh, went away from it. If you had a combination of C and 3, D and 4, any combinations of these letters, you had to have one of these letters and one of these numbers. You would be in the I category, and it means something. I'm going to explain it. Raise your hand if you're the I. Raise it up. All right, we got 1, 2, 3. Keep them high. 3, 4 maybe. All right, good, good. Let's go to the next one. If you had a combination of A and B, 3 and 4, any combination, A and 3, B and 4, 3 and A, 4 and A, raise your hand. You would be in the, hang on a second, I got ahead of myself, S category. Raise it, Kevin. Anybody else? Yep, Sharif, good. All right, good. Tyson, got a couple of more people, perfect. And finally, those of you in the C category, okay, it would be an A and B, 1 and 2, raise your hand. You guys would be in the C category, okay? All right, raise your hand if you're a C. Bill, I see you. Christopher, boom. Megan, I didn't see yours. What was yours earlier?
I'm a D.
D, course you are. Don't piss her off. Okay, I'm going. All right, good. Lamont, I got you. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's talk about it. 4 types of people in the world. Think about your team. Think about your significant others. Think about your boss. A D personality, they're a dominant personality. They're aggressive by nature. They're assertive. They're task-oriented. They're constantly on the move to do something. You could be a D, well, you could be a D, I, S, or C, neurosurgeon, banker, entrepreneur, basketball coach. But don't forget, guys, you could be a D, I, S, or C drug dealer. Remember that external piece. But a D personality is aggressive, and I'll give some examples in a little bit. The I personality, they're influencing, inspiring. They are fun people. Those of you guys that raised your hand on the I, if there was a party last night, you were probably there. And I say that tongue in cheek, but they love people. They get energy from people. They are your extroverts. They do really well with people and words. Dominant people, by the way, there's always some growth areas, blind spots we call them. Dominant people going backwards, they are not only are aggressive and they're great at task orientation, but they can have low empathy and run people over sometimes and forget about people because they want to do it themselves. Where I's are so great with people, they sometimes have 20,000 things going on because they can't say no, and they maybe forgot about the first 3 things they started and it never gets finished. Okay, maybe you know somebody like that. The S stands for stable, steadiness. I call it a soldier style. Those of you that had S, you guys are secure is another word. The S is they do a job, they do it well. It actually measures pace. They like to go at a certain pace. It's their pace. And they don't really like to slow down, but they don't like to speed up either. And they're loyal. They're patient. That's why I call them soldiers. They're really, really good in teams and in relationships because of that patient, caring value. Okay? And the C style, finally, is they're the correct analytical thinkers. I described them a lot earlier, where they are driven to be correct. They're the person, have you ever had a person on your team, or a player on your team, or worked with someone where they don't say a lot, but inside, the reason they're not talking is because they're thinking. They can't get out of their own head because they're so driven to be correct, okay? DISC says, and by the way, DISC was developed in 1928, ladies and gentlemen. It has a 90% validation, and it is the assessment used by 70% of Fortune 5s, the 100% of U.S. militaries, et cetera. Okay? It's easy to learn, but it's hard to master because we all have a level of all 4 of these. So Megan could be a D, but she still has a level of I, S, and C. And so we actually measure that. If we go back to our software, Kevin, I'm going to get into you in a little bit, but like this, see, if you look at our graphs, 0 to 100, 0 to 100 with the D, I, S, and C, if you're over the 50, which is called the energy line, you get a letter, which is a primary letter. But just because this person's more of an S naturally, it's a kind of a bad example to explain. Let me go to somebody else. This person's a little uncomfortable. This person's more of a C, but their D, I, S, and C isn't low. Where we see some people where that some of their natural behaviors are really low. This person lives more in the C category, more of his primary emotion. Just to kind of say that. So we all have a level. So Megan, just using her as an example, she could be a D, but maybe a D and an I more naturally, maybe more of a D and a C. And that's where we go with teaching this behavioral model. D's, all 4 styles, not only have natural behaviors, but they also have, think about yourself and what you scored yourself. They also have a primary emotion. That emotion for the D's, they just get angry a lot. If they feel they're taken advantage of, if things aren't planned out well, they just get mad. I's, they're very optimistic. They're so good. They love people so much. They're very optimistic just naturally. Sometimes they can be too overly optimistic. S's, same example as the I, patience. They're awesome with patience. So they're the person that loves security, another S word. They stay at a job for 15, 20 years. But patience is the key because they may have that asshole boss, but they can deal with it because security matters so much to them. They can fight through that. And then the C style, their primary emotion is actually fear. And you may think, well, they're just people that run around scared. No, they don't run from their shadows. They're scared to be wrong. So they have a little bit of anxiety tick. Those of you that scored yourself as a C, think to yourself, do I get nervous because I'm trying to be correct in the situation at hand? And that's DISC. So let's play a game. Everybody take your mics off if you don't mind, unless you have a bunch of noise in the background. And here are some general characteristics. Take charge, get things done. If I were to tell you to guess a bird, yes, a bird. All right, think flamingo, think robin, think blue jay, okay? A bird that describes the D. What kind of bird, now that you know what DISC is, what kind of bird would you, let's see if we can get this right. What kind of bird would define a D? Anybody?
Owl. Vulture.
Why, hold on, somebody said owl. Why an owl?
Because they're patient. They'll take charge. They're.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me explain blind spot. Blind spot is another word for weakness. Something they can't see. Apologies. So this person is, the strengths are up top, the weaknesses are down the bottom. A blind spot in our definition is something that me personally, I can't see it, but you can. Sorry, I should have explained that.
All right. Well.
So go back to the bird.
Yeah, I would say the owl still.
All right. Owl?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Vulture.
Vulture's a good one. Yep. I'm picking on the owl for a reason. I'll go to that in a minute. Anybody else?
Hawk.
Hawk. We went eagle. A hawk's a good one. A vulture's a good one. Someone the other day said pterodactyl. Wow. I couldn't believe they said pterodactyl, but they did. It's an aggressive bird. Some people learn with words, some people learn visually. So we're trying to teach you here a little bit, okay? If you know someone with more of a hawk and eagle personality, how about an automobile, something you drive? What a D be?
Bugatti.
A Bugatti is pretty and luxurious and wealthy, but is it strong and aggressive?
A truck.
Like a F-450.
An F-450 truck. But what if that's the best answer I usually get, but what if it wasn't a car? Think of another vehicle.
Tank.
Tractor.
Who said tank?
I did.
Too. We use tank, not that truck's wrong, okay? But tanks are aggressive, but they will also run over people to get the job done. So will the D personality. No offense, Megan. You're good. We still love you, okay? You got to pick on the D's too, okay? The anger emotion is going. So let's have fun. We'll finish the game here. How about the I's? I's are street smart, intuitive, fast thinkers, optimists. They really good with words. What bird goes with the I personality style? Verbally persuasive. They like to dress up. They like to look good.
Peacock.
They love social. Who?
Oh, okay.
Peacock.
Peacock's a great one. And it's not the answer in this one, but it should win because I get that a lot.
Rooster.
Rooster. I've never heard that one. That's pretty good too. We went with parrot because they talk and they like to be pretty. Okay. How about an automobile? Now Bugatti, I would have put Bugatti in this one. Whoever said that one earlier, but it's not Bugatti. But what else would you say on an automobile? Car. Let's go car this time. Anybody other than
Lamborghini?
Lamborghini. What color?
Red.
Yeah, you're close. We went red, Corvette. But they're pretty. They stand out. That's the I personality style. They love to be social, pretty, stand out. This one's a convertible. Why? Because if they pull up to the light, they want to talk this way and they want to talk this way because they love to talk. And they're good at it. They're really good at it. How about the hardest bird, I think, of the birds? Ultimate team player, loyal, patient, consistent personality. Remember, we talked about pace. I'll give you a hint. Think harmonious. Penguin is the one my wife says we should use. I think it's a great answer. It is.
Dove.
Dove. The
Barrel.
Yep. The S's want things to be everybody get along. They just want everybody to get along. And they're good at it. They're good at bringing people together and eliminating the anger and bringing people together. How about an automobile?
Minivan.
Minivan used to be our choice, and it's a great one. Why do you say minivan, though?
It brings people together. It's pretty loyal, I guess.
Yep, they're family. S's are the biggest in family. Okay, so you're right, but we didn't think minivan was cool enough, so we went SUV.
There we go.
You know what I mean? You got, the S's have to. The minivan wasn't cool enough, man. So you had to have the S. You had to have the S.
When you say blind spots, like how can you kind of go into that a little bit? Is it a negative? Is it like?
Yeah, I should probably put somewhere they can get better. Blind spots, by definition, are what I or you cannot see, but other people can see. So let's say I'm a D personality and I'm really aggressive with people, and I do everything myself and I never delegate. And my coworkers say, hey, why don't you give us some work so we can get something done? You never delegate. And I say, what are you talking about? I do too. I don't run over you guys. But the whole room says, that guy's got a blind spot. He doesn't see it. Blind spots, sometimes S's don't deal with antagonistic coworkers very well. They don't like assholes. They just kind of run from conflict. The S's is driven by they have a dominant fear of loss of security. So they don't like change. Big decisions like marriage, moving, job changes, they don't love it. It makes them nervous because of security is a big part of their personality. And remember, I talked about pace. They like to stay at their own pace, even though they may say, well, hey, I like to go fast. Well, if they work with a boss that says, hey, give me the reports by Friday, but that boss came in and said, hey, do you have the reports done? I know it's only Wednesday, but do you have them done? The S really bothers he or she. So that's a blind spot. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I should have said that. Sometimes I get going too fast for the sake of time. I want to make sure I don't keep you guys too long. On C, what's a bird for the C? Somebody said it right in the beginning. Quick to think, it's the bird of wisdom. It's the bird of knowledge. The C,
owl.
The owl. That was more it's an aggressive bird. You could use it for the D, but it's more of that wise bird. And then finally, the C, what kind of automobile would you think would describe the C style?
Hey, Chad, not to cut you off from your thought. Coach Sutton's trying to get back in. If you could let him in.
Yeah. Let me get him back in. Got it. Kevin, we got you. Thanks for telling me.
Thank you.
Yep. So we're in the C style. We got the owl's the bird.
A Tesla.
Bam. Who said Tesla? First guess. It used to be a Prius, but like the SUV, it wasn't cool enough. But a Tesla is very thought through. It's an analytical car, a little different in thought process, where a C personality can be that way. Again, we're just teaching today, guys, just to fly through this stuff. So you guys, we normally put people into groups when we do this assessment, but you kind of have a category where you at. What you're all welcome to do is get a hold of me and take this in our system, no charge, and see how self-aware you are. So does the first letter that shows up on your assessment match what you did in the exercise tonight? That's what we end up doing with a lot of the student athletes and the coaching staff. This stuff isn't for everybody. And I want to say that actually this is a story I'm going to skip just because of time. But if we have some time at the end, remind me to tell the 49ers story. You'll never see another person as they are before you see them as you are. That's the number one rule to remember with people. Think about a time where you've walked down the hallway, walked down the street, walked down the practice field or court, and you see someone you know, but you don't know them great, and you say, hey, how you doing? And that person walked by you and didn't say anything back. And you go, what the hell's wrong with that person? Why do they not ever say hello? But let's put yourself in the other person's shoes. Did you ever think that person may walk by you and say, why does she always say hi to me? It's so weird. Okay? I'm trying to make you smile a little bit, but When people aren't like us, it bothers us. That's how conflict and these unwritten bad feelings happen on a team or in the workplace. They don't do it like me. They don't work out like me. They don't work like me. So they're just, I don't know, that it just bothers me. But if you can understand some sort of personality system to audit yourself and know that there's people out there different than you, it allows you to take the personal out of it and be more patient and understanding that, hey, I'm not saying they can't help it, but can we all learn to adapt to where a D needs to be spoken to a certain way and S needs to be coached and talked to a certain way. That's where we go with all this stuff. But all of us fight this rule. And I'm going to skip this as well. A couple more things on DISC. It's a behavioral system that's easy to understand, arguably the most popular in the world. 4 behavioral styles that span all cultures, and it measures normal and adaptive behavior. I'll show you guys how we can see how someone, who they are naturally, but also how they can change. It also talks, I just mentioned it, how you can adapt your style to become effective with the people around you that may be different. Some examples of the D style. Take your political beliefs and throw them out the window, okay? I'm being extreme here. Donald Trump, whether you like him or hate him, his behavior is push and prod. It's very aggressive behavioral. He tweets, he pushes, he runs over people. Okay, but those are behavioral traits of the D. Bob Knight is a D at, we measure to 100. He's probably at 125. Okay. Maybe you guys know Buzz Williams at Texas A&M. He's a high D, but these are aggressive personalities. Caleb Swanigan used to play for Purdue, just to give you a personality. A lot of people bring up Michael Jordan, but if you watch The Last Dance, he would be the D of that team. I think because he's not because he's the best player, he's aggressive, he's assertive, he's not afraid, he's a risk taker, which Ds are a lot. 3% of the personalities on the planet are Ds. There's just less of them in the world. I can get into case studies in a little while of why that number is so low. I's, those fun people. Jamie Foxx, Jameis Winston I talked about earlier, Bruce Pearl. There's a lot of I's. I's with student athletes. We've done a couple athletic departments as a whole. And one of the athletic departments, which was a mid-level Division I school, had 520 athletes, male and female. 62% of the athletes were first letter I's. 11% is the 5 generations in the workplace. But we see so much with young people, the I is so much more. Meaning from a numbers standpoint. Maybe people ask why. Maybe it's the phone, the era of expression, social media. I think that has to do with something with it, but nobody knows if that's true. But we see a ton of I's with the personality assessment. The S's of the world. These guys, Jason Garrett, the former head coach of the Cowboys, Shaka Smart, Myles Garrett, the #1 pick in the NFL draft. Very patient, loving, caring personalities, but really good at their job. This is the majority of the world. You'll always have S personalities on your team. You're going to have those Doves. You're going to have those SUVs. There's just more of them in the world. The I and the S style with 18 to 22-year-olds is right around, that 40. It depends on what school you go to. There's always more of those styles. They're more people-oriented style, where a D and a C is more task-oriented. Okay? And then the C style, that analytical style in the brain. Bill Gates is kind of the poster child for the C, that very analytical thinker. Matt Painter at Purdue is a high C. Jared Haas at Stanford is a C. Mike Young at Virginia Tech is a C. Even though they're really aggressive in their personality, they're coaches under the hood. They're very analytical thinkers. And the #2 pick in the NBA draft 7 or 8 years ago was D'Angelo Russell. He is a CS. And there's a story with that, back to, do you know your players well enough why you'd use this? Thad Matta was the coach at Ohio State. They were our client. And Thad was really into it. The staff was great. Greg Paulus was on staff. And he said, Chad, I love this stuff. And I agree with everything except one assessment. And I'm like, which one, coach? He goes, this one right here. D'Angelo Russell. He was a true freshman that year. And I said, well, what do you see? I said, I'm not here. What do you mean? He goes, this guy is a freshman, is in our gym. He's grabbing guys by the jersey. He's organizing practice. He talks. I got to think he's more of a D style. I said, I get it. He's totally showing those traits. We brought him in and we sat him down and we said, all right, let's talk about why you scored this but what we see on the court. He said, well, guys, I'm a McDonald's All-American. I've always been really good at basketball. I know what it takes to run point and lead. And where I'm taking you guys is what's called adaptive behavior. He said, I can turn it on. But he said, when I go home at night or when I'm thinking about what I have to do, I'm nervous. I'm trying to be perfect. He said, those are just the traits of the C fit me more. He said, but I should still turn it on when I got to turn it on and ball. Learning how to adapt is really important. He was just very mature for a young point guard.
Hey, Chad, just a quick question for you.
Sure.
Can you just throw out those percentages one last time? C was 17%. What was D, I, and S?
Yeah, talking about the world of 5 generations in the workplace, which is the first time ever that's happened. The Gen Zers or the young people to the Gen Xers. 3% are Ds. 11% are I's. But that's growing. I'm telling you, it's growing even in the older generation. But it's still the numbers we get back from a group in Europe that keep these numbers. That's what they've held consistent. S's there's way more of them, and that's true. 69%, we see that. And then the C style is 17%.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Those C's in the world. You guys did the math. I know you did. So it's a lot to take in now, especially when you've never taken it. But hopefully the exercises have kind of taken you to where you can grasp this assessment and really think about self-awareness and people that you're around. Remember your boss, your players, your significant others, think what they might be. Now grab your sheets, guys, your cards exercise. Let's score them. What I want you to do before you start writing anything in that equal sign, okay, let me go here, is instead of, let's do this, up above the spade, okay, I want you to write the letter above it. I can't write up here, so I'm just going to put it below, but I'm going to erase it in a minute. D, I, S, C. Write that above up here in this area up here. Okay, above the letters. And now what I want you to do in the equal sign is you're going to write the letter that you had the most ticks, the most spade, club, hearts, diamond for a scientist. You're going to write C or D, or if it's a tie, write them both, I and S. Everybody turn your cameras on if you would. We're going to raise our hands. How many of you chose C for scientists? Raise your hand high. There's 25 or 27 of us or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. A few cameras are off. We're already at half though. Okay, and some of you guys I can't see, it's no big deal. But I can tell you this. You didn't know anything when you did this exercise. I do this with groups of 5 and groups of hundreds. 80% of the room usually chooses C, just from the behavioral side. If we want to cure cancer, do we want somebody driven by perfection? Now, maybe you disagree. How many of you chose D? Raise your hand. Anybody? There's one.
So I had a combination
tie
of D and C.
Yeah, Justin, that's cool because you'll get some ties in this. But C and a D, perfection and drive, perfection and prick. That's a good thing for a scientist. We need a coronavirus vaccine, don't we? I mean, let's go, people. That's a great point. And we're winding down here. But anybody have I, S, or I, or S? It doesn't mean they can't do it. They just have to work harder at it. If that makes sense. Let's go to comedian. How many of you wrote down the letter I for comedian? Raise your hands high. Bill did it. Christopher, hold your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm losing a few people. So almost half again, but I only see half of some people's, I have a lot of, cameras that are off, which is fine. But both of the lead letters, you didn't know anything, still have been over 50%. And I would gamble it would be 80% if we did it again. We like those fast-talking, funny, instinctive, quick-witted personalities. How many of you chose D? Raise your hand. Anybody? Sharif? All right, Sharif, you may like some raw stuff, man. That's cool. That's cool. No worries, man. You good. That's fine. But like somebody, if you think about the D personality, D gets a lot. I mean, think about like Bill Burr and Bobcat Goldthwait and some of these aggressive comedians. Where like Eddie Murphy's more of an I, where Bill Burr's more of an aggressive. Some people like comedy like that.
I was thinking less about the making people laugh and more about the prep it takes to write your script to deliver to do a show.
Hey, I like that a lot. Absolutely. And that's where sitting down and hiring, Sharif, think about that. Like, you're not wrong. I think it's a great point. I tease people all the time to choose D because it's kind of funny, but there's a lot of D comedians out there. You and I both know it. And for the reasons, there are a lot of good ones. Joe Rogan's probably a good D. You know what I mean? But like what you said, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And guys, S's and C's can be comedians too. They just have to work a little harder at it than the other styles. And then how about quarterback? Raise your hand if you chose D first. Raise it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, we're close to half that time. 13, 14, I got more video now. We're still over half again. In the NFL Combine, the 74 elite quarterbacks that have gone through, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, only 8 of 74 were first letter Ds. 62%, actually 31 of the 30, it's actually 40 some odd percent. 31 of them had the I style. If you chose I, raise your hand. Instincts, intuition. Couple. Okay, boom. So we got some I. Anybody have C? There's plenty of C quarterbacks. Anybody have S? Anybody Jets fans? All right, Christopher, good. Jerry? Yep, there's a lot of good S quarterback. Josh Rosen. If you're Jets fans, sorry, but our guy Sam Darnold is a high S. But a lot of them very successful in college. But D usually wins. But it's funny when we're coaches, we always want that dominant, direct guy being our leader. I'm just telling you, ladies and gentlemen, there's less of them in the world. So how can you teach everybody to adapt their behavior to do things you need them to do without self-awareness? And guys, that exercise is done, but that's where we begin. There's actually 2 more assessments we don't have time for tonight to go into, but we get into values, what people value, how they motivate. Kevin, I think we're getting close to, an hour and 45, which I think is what you mentioned. But it's not personal, everybody. If you can teach everybody how to audit themselves and use tools to understand themselves and the people around them, who you are as a head coach. Actually, a couple of my clients have me come in and do a talk every year to tell them who they're playing for. I tell the room, the coaches aren't in the room, and I talk and we have some fun with it. I make them guess like a game show. But we talk about how to communicate. If someone's a C, bring your data and details to the conversation. Go slow. Make sure there's a progression. Don't speak in big picture. Don't speak in broad strokes. If you're dealing with a D personality, you better be brief, be bright, be gone. Get in, get out. Say what you got to say. Be direct. So we coach the kids on how to communicate with their coach based on what style it may be. Okay? So that's where we will start. There's a lot of combinations where we teach you guys what all this stuff means. But for tonight, I'm gonna stop there. and get back to just kind of showing you guys the software. How many of you guys, raise your hand, think Kevin Sutton is an I? Raise your hand. Anybody? You guys have probably already seen his score. Okay, but Kevin, me too, man. I met him and he's texting me, and he says all the, and he's so polished, and you look at him, man, he's pretty. I mean, you think carrot all day long. But Kevin Sutton, ladies and gentlemen, is a C. He's a perfectionist. He's got a little bit of I there naturally. It goes away at work. So that's the orange is how somebody changes, and the I, or the C, is how someone is driven to be perfect. Okay? He can be assertive, but it's not his natural behavior. Kevin, do you want to talk about your C and S, why they're kind of your natural behaviors? Do you mind?
No, I don't mind at all. You know, like I said, this assessment was spot on. I tend to try to be more of a team person, a team player. Hence, we have the living Zoom, living trophy Zoom. I want to share my knowledge and share my contacts, and want to be a guy who leads from the front of the group, but wants to bring people along. But also, all the while, I try to not be as confrontational as I have to be, unless I have to be. So.
And been coaching, you probably, back to adaptive, you probably learned to be assertive through your years.
Yes, absolutely.
You're still a young pup, but you might not love it because you care about, you got that high S too. You care about being that soldier, security, caring style. I mean, I'm just using my words as a consultant, but would you agree?
I would totally agree.
Cool. Yeah, and then the I, it's there, guys. This is what I see. He's so well spoken, but it goes away at work. It kind of drops a little, Kevin. Does that mean you can kind of sit back and be a strong assistant and you don't need to be out in front?
Oh, that is 100% accurate. I've been an assistant coach longer than I've been a head coach. So, and the head coaches that I worked for and worked with were people that I had a great deal of respect for. So I always wanted to be a servant, to them, to help them build their program. So yeah, I can at times sit back and allow them to lead. And so yeah, that is definitely accurate for me.
That's awesome. I love how the S. I never use the word servant, but the S's are the best servants because they're okay with it. Just tell me my role and I'll help whoever out. These other assessments down here are, it gets into values. There's a list of values that 28 actually that you choose to become your top 5. Health, integrity, advancement, pleasure, creativity. These are all things that matter to Kevin. And then the third assessment gets into, am I a practical thinker or am I elaborate creative thinker? Am I driven by money? Do I need to be out in front or can I be behind the cloak? Am I motivated to lead people? Do I want to care about others? Like, look how high Kevin's humanity is empathy. This guy is doing this. Like, if you were to listen to Kevin approach you about this forum, you may think personality, like he's going to be out in front and he's motivated by the, leading people. Now he does, but look how high the humanity category is. This dude cares about helping others. The higher this category is, the more they will actually put others in front of themselves. Would you agree, Kevin?
Yes, absolutely.
And I know I'm going into a land we didn't go over this assessment, but just as I get to know you, these last two are like authority is somewhat a level of flex. Is if you're high in authority, you really follow rules to the letter of the law, and you think one way. The lower you are, the more broad you are in your acceptance and your thinking. Which Kevin, if I will say, if there was if you were late to a meeting and there was a reserved parking spot, you might park there. Just saying, okay? You're
Yeah.
not like that. You really fight yourself on that. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm joking, but teaching what authority means and expertise. If you're low, you're very much solution-based. If you're high, you're very curious to learn everything. A lot of Stanford kids have high expertise. So it's a lot to soak in, especially in these others because we didn't go through them. But DISC, hopefully you got a taste of that. and that was able to help you guys there. And let me open it up for questions, Kevin. Hopefully that helped everybody kind of think a little differently about people and how you approach your teams. And no, you don't have to use DISC. I just think there's a lot of good assessments out there. I just encourage anybody to use something to make it your own, to help you and your team audit yourself a little better, because I think we can all get better there.
Absolutely. Let's open it up to questions. Unmute your mics and ask Chad any questions that you have. Presentation was awesome, though.
Thank you.
Chad,
enjoyed it.
Chad, how are you? This is Lamont Franklin down in Miami. Thanks a lot. This is really great. Really appreciate you being on here. One question I had, and it's come up a couple of times tonight. You mentioned, for instance, you just mentioned about Kevin, where in his home life or his personal life, he may be one way, but in his work life, he may be another way. Is that something that you see quite frequently in terms of how people kind of, where they fall on the spectrum?
Absolutely. Let's have some fun with that question. It's an awesome question. So there's 3,998 of the best college football players in the last 6 years in this system. You're looking at 100 of them. To talk to Lamont's question, if he were to bring on Vernon Scott, the natural style. So remember Kevin's graph. I went away from Kevin. Where'd you go? Here we go. I lost you. I think I deleted your stuff, Kevin. But let's look at somebody over here. Let's go look at Andre Casey. So remember, the blue graph is your natural style, who you are when no one else is around. Your adaptive style is how you can change. Notice this graph is pretty similar, right? So if we go back to the Cowboys, Vernon Scott, kind of what you see is what you get if the letter combinations are the same. Does that make sense? But can people change at work? So natural is who you are actually at home when no one else is around. Adaptive is how you can change at work or in a competitive environment. So let's look. You see a lot of these letter combinations change. Well, this Chris Fulton's a CSCI. He's a C, but the S and the I kind of fluctuate. Jordan Brooks, what you see is what you get. I'm kind of looking for one that's drastically different. I don't see a ton yet.
Jeff Gladly, if you go up, has two different ones.
Yeah, but like Michael Warren, this guy's a good one here. Darn it, sorry guys. Kind of my internet kind of jumped on me there, so give me a second here. But anyway, that's the answer as we look at that, as far as what natural and adaptive means. And what's amazing is these adjectives you guys choose from are weighted by these PhDs through the years to do that. I'm trying to find somebody else that's very different. But hopefully that answers your question. I'm trying to find a good example, but I'm scrambling around here. I'll get one here in a minute.
Chad, if you go back to the Dallas, you had Jeff Gladly on there, and he had like all different letters on both sides.
Love it. Good job. Nice one. Good eyes. So here's a guy that naturally is what we call that secure, stable soldier style. This guy is going to be caring, loving. It's what we describe. He'll do anything. Tell me my role. And I would predict with good external, he's going to be the S's, by the way, they're a guarded personality, but they're an open style. So he's going to be guarded and hard to read, but he's going to be open in his feelings. But he can flip a switch and go I and D. So whoever said that, who said that? Who brought this one up?
That was Justin Cardozo.
Justin, thank you. That's a good eyes, man. He can go I and D. Now it really skyrockets too, which means when I say the I and D, it's usually the most instinctive. It's the most street smart, fast thinking personality. Now they like risk and they like parties, but he can turn that on in football. It's a great personality style because it does turn on your ability to react quickly. And notice you got an introverted personality naturally, but of 28 options, he's competitive. But so you've got the aggressiveness in the beginning, but then hey, The S wants to work with others. Remember the dove, harmonious, cooperation, wants to move up, advancement, creativity, and order. Order's more of that OCD kind of, my world is going to be organized, which a lot of S's and C's are. But it's, do I know this guy intimately? No. But if he was on my team, I could talk to him about it and say, of all 28, man, you chose structure and order as one of your top 5. Why, man? Is your locker clean? Are you, like, why are systems so important to you? My answer is the consultant's not the right answer. His answer, when he speaks about it, is the right answer. So I'm getting away from natural and adaptive, but this guy can change. You may see more of this, but it's not really who he is. Makes sense? Have you ever met, and one more example on when I say makes sense, have you ever interviewed anyone, ladies and gentlemen, that someone that won the interview, but then they got to work and they were very different than how you remember them in the interview? That happens a lot in HR. It happens a lot in hiring. And
Hey,
so,
Chad,
yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go, man. Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, first, Sharif Hashem, really appreciate you. I love this stuff. I was texting Justin. Kevin, thank you for providing this platform.
Absolutely.
Can you, so at my institution, we use Clifton Strengths.
Yeah, it's good.
Can you share, like, so I've got all the strengths for all my staff. Like, just offer some advice of how, anyone can, take those strengths and just any advice you can offer on managing people when you actually have their assessment sitting in front of you. You have a GM who has these assessments. They're making decisions based on these guys. Just what advice can you offer? Thank you.
Absolutely. No, great question. A lot of nonprofit organizations use like Clifton Strength Finders. That's a great one. The best thing about the Strength Finders, guys, is positive. Like, if you want to really get people going, feeling good, Strength Finders accentuates the positive in people. You heard Gary Vaynerchuk, even though he cursed about every other word, he talked about, going all in on your strengths. Okay. And that's what Strength Finders does. When I mentioned the nonprofits, a lot of nonprofits use things like Strength Finders or DISC or Myers-Briggs. The reason they use them, to answer Sharif's question, is because they don't usually have a lot of money. And so they use them to put people into positions where they can help the organization, a lot of times with volunteers that they don't know very well. So if I see someone that's extremely task-oriented and direct, I may say, what Strength Finders or DISC, let's use those two. I may say, you know what? Let's put them in a position where things need to get done. Action needs to be taken where we may have been stale in the past. Let's say you need help in customer service. The I and the S are the people styles, verbally and caring, the dove and the parrot. Where do you need help? Maybe those styles are better in customer service. Some of you coaches in recruiting, okay? A lot of I's are naturally good with words and good with sales. That's another area you could put them. Let's say your organization needs better help with analytics and data, accounting, any sort of areas there. A C and an S style are very much more data-driven. Usually, not all the time. Doesn't mean an I and a D can't be accountants. It's just harder for them, as we mentioned. We've got a girl here that's a high I. She's our director of training, but she was a math major. So it's very unique. So we joke with her about that. But to Sharif, just those are maybe some examples of when you see those letters in DISC or Strength Finders, you can take those strengths and put them in positions where you may need help. And that's where because naturally those behaviors that show up are going to fit those jobs. Now, obviously more needs to happen. Interviews, skill sets, education, you got to vet them, with the other things you've been doing. But this, at least, it helps you eliminate the guesswork to put them in a position to make your organization successful. Does that help, Sharif? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question.
Hey, Chad, we want to be respectful of your time. If you could share your contact information I know so many people in this on our Living Trophy Zoom would love to be able to reach out and ask you even more questions and find out even more about what you do at Profile and how Profile can help them, grow individually as well as grow their respective teams. And if they're head coaches, how they hire people. So all this information is invaluable. So if you could share that, and then we'll just bring it all to a close because you've been on for 2 hours, bro. And, we can't thank you enough.
I feel I get talked. I got an eye, guys. I got my pretty high, so I'm sorry. But no, it's thanks, Kevin. It really is there's my contact. I got on Twitter late, so any followers helps my, I just need help. I don't have any followers, but trying to get better there. But, that's our website. And that's my cell phone. So text me. You can contact me through the website too, but text is the easiest way. My email, I should probably put that up there, but my email's let me do this here. Give me 1 second. It's Chad, CHAD, @profile, but it's a weird extension, .team, TEAM, Chad @profile.team. You can see that .team is here. So, but guys, that's my personal information. Kevin, I can't thank you enough. Everybody's awesome. And just really appreciate, just going to add it in here. I love this stuff. I love people that want to get better at people. And just thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. If I can help you, let us know. And if I can ever just want to talk on the phone, give me a call.
Chad, again, we can't thank you enough. We being the Living Trophy Zoom cannot thank you enough for your willingness to come on, first and foremost. Secondly, your willingness to share your knowledge and your expertise in this field. We are always trying to gain an edge. And what we learned today will certainly give us an edge to make sure that we're living out our mission statement of trying to be the ladle that pours into our student athletes. We don't want to be the ladle that takes the water out of the bucket. We want to be the ladle that pours into our student athletes. And then we want to use our platform as coaches, as leaders to impact as many lives as we possibly can so we can create living trophies. And so we want to close with our quote for the day, of this Zoom. And we say this, each day, remember your purpose. Remember why you do what you do. When we don't get burned out because of what we do. We get burned out because we forget why we do what we do. And that's John Gordon. And I think if we can all keep that in mind, we will all continue to be the people and the influencers, the impactors, and the leaders that we want to be. Chad, can't thank you enough, brother. You're always accessible to me. And this was fantastic. So on behalf of the Living Trophy Zoom, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, guys. Everyone, have a great year with all the craziness. Thank you, guys.
All right, be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, fellas. All right, everybody.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Coach Sutton.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Meeting. Thank you.